Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and what a snowy day it is. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Angie and I love all things beauty, whether it be skincare, hair care, makeup. I am 45 and I wasn't really into makeup until I turned 40 when I realized that the makeup I had been using for 10 years wasn't working for me anymore. I have a chemistry background, so I got really interested in skincare, got really good at reading labels and understanding how skincare ingredients work, and I got really into makeup, and it just became a huge hobby for me, and that's how I ended up on YouTube. So today is going to be the second part of a 3-part series. I'm going to be talking about my 5 favorite products from 5 favorite brands. Today is my drugstore edition, so this is all drugstore all the time today. I love drugstore makeup. I think the drugstore has so much to offer us in regards to makeup. A lot has changed over the last many decades. Now, I still love high-end makeup as well, and in my makeup collection, I have a good mix of both. But like I said, today we are gonna focus on the best drugstore products out there. So we're gonna start with the first brand. Now I'm cheating a little bit here because this is not a makeup brand you can find in your local CVS or Walgreens, but it is considered an affordable brand that you can buy at Ulta on their website, and that is Colourpop. Colourpop has so much to offer. I would say that the one negative about Colourpop is they tend to release a lot of makeup, a lot of collections. So following the brand can be very difficult, but I do think that for the most part, their branding is on point, and I do think that their formulas are very stable and their formulas are consistent, and I think that's really important. So I'm going to be talking about my favorite products from the brand. I would love to hear what your favorite products are as well, if you want to leave a comment down below on that. Starting with Colourpop, we're going to start with foundation. They're a pretty fresh foundation. This is a very good medium coverage foundation. It's got a light glow to it. It's not a matte formulation, but I would say it's mildly glowy. I would not call this like a super dewy or glowy foundation by any means. This is not to be mistaken from the tinted moisturizer. Colourpop also has in their pretty fresh line, they have a tinted moisturizer. This I can't get behind. This is not great for my combination oily skin. It makes me greasy and oily within an hour or two. So this, great. My only caveat with this is that because I have combination oily skin, this is one of my favorite foundations in the winter. It is not something that I tend to reach for in the summer when it's really hot and humid, because it just can't stand up to my oil production, and it just kind of slides around on my face. I tend to put this away in the summer, reach for it in the fall, but I do love it. It is very skin-like, but it gives a good amount of coverage, medium coverage. I am in the shade Fair 30N, and if you're looking for just a really good workhorse, if you've got normal to dry skin, you can probably wear this all year. If you've got more combination skin, I would say save this for the winter, but I wouldn't discount it, even if you can only wear it in the winter, because it is a really beautiful foundation. Next, I'm gonna flip over to lip products. Colourpop has a lot of different lip products, from lip oils and lip glosses, but my favorite are their lippy sticks. This is kind of a creamy formula, not too dry, not too greasy or anything like that. It gives you a good amount of pigment on your lips, but it's not too fussy, and that's what I like about it. I have it in 2 shades. I have it in the shade Cami and in the shade Parker. I will go ahead and swatch those. But you can see from these swatches that this is a very just creamy formula, easy on the lips, easy to wear, does not dry out. Now, these don't last nearly as long as certain liquid lipsticks or anything like that, but these are just great everyday wear lip products. The other lip product I really like is I love their lippy pencils. I love their lip liners. Again, very creamy. Very creamy, not chalky. They don't drag on your lips at all. They've got that nice creamy formula, and they've got all kinds of shades to choose from. This is in the shade Oh Snap. It's a great kind of mauve-y nude. I wear a lot of mauve from a lipstick perspective, so this is a great mauve-y nude that works with a good percentage of my lipsticks. The next Colourpop product that's one of my favorites is their Super Shock highlighters. I used to have two of these. I have Lunch Money, and I also had another one, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it's called. I will put it down below, but that one, they both fell, and you can see I've got a crack in this one, but the other one just smashed to pieces. But if you've never tried their Super Shock formula, it's so cushiony and smooth. It's not chalky at all, and it's just really, really pretty on the skin, not too chunky, you know, just really gives you a nice glistening, but it's not trying to make you all glittery or chunky or anything like that. It's just a really, really beautiful highlighter. It has stood the test of time. It's just a great favorite. And then finally, I want to talk about Colourpop's eyeshadow palettes. Gosh, there are so many to choose from. If you are looking for a specific color story, if you want lilacs or mints or blues or yellows, Colourpop has you covered. It can be a little overwhelming with all the different options, but man, if you're looking for a specific color story, they've got you covered. I picked some of my favorite palettes. I mean, there are so many out there, but I picked some of my favorite, and I do find that the formula is quite consistent throughout. Every once in a while, you'll get a formula that is not up to par, but in general, I think Colourpop does a beautiful job keeping their formula consistent. I picked three here. Some of my favorites, oh my gosh, this is one of my absolute favorites. This is their Sweet Talk palette. This is like a corally palette. This is the palette I didn't know I needed. I picked it up and I was like, oh, are these corals gonna work for me? And this has become one of my favorite palettes. I get so many compliments when I wear this palette. It was the palette I never knew that I needed, and I never knew that I needed corals, but I did. There are some pressed glitters in here. I'm not crazy about the pressed glitters, but their mattes are beautiful. Their shimmers are beautiful. This is just a great palette. The next palette is a neutral palette. Now they do have several different neutral palettes, but this is probably my favorite. This is their Going Coconuts. This is more of a warm toned neutral. This was one of my favorite neutral eyeshadow palettes. I put it in my top 5 neutral eyeshadow palettes. You can see one of my shimmers here. I've had to press back into the pan because it's crumbling. This is such a gorgeous, gorgeous neutral color story. It looks beautiful on the eyes. This shimmer, this white shimmer, this is one of my favorite shimmers in all of my collection. It is such a beautiful shade. It's called Palm Reader. It's just one of my favorite shades, and you can see from here that this Cocoa Crush is another one of my absolute favorite shimmers. I just think they have such a beautiful shimmer formulation. And then finally, I picked up another kind of, you know, neutral palette. This is called Blush Crush. This is just a very light pink palette. This in the middle of winter, sometimes, you know, we're getting close to Valentine's Day, and you know, these are the colors that I tend to reach for. You know, look, I actually used a different eyeshadow palette on my eyes today, but it would look really nice with what I'm wearing here. This is also just a really, really nice color story. Like I said, Colourpop has very consistent formulas, both in their mattes and their shimmers. I'm not so crazy about their pressed glitters. I'm 45. I'm kind of over the pressed glitter for the most part. Not all their palettes have those. A lot of them, they have just matte palettes. They have a mixture of matte and shimmer. And then of course they have some of the pressed glitters as well. You can always find something from Colourpop. And frankly, the price point is amazing. All right, you guys, let's talk about our second brand from the drugstore. This brand you can find in the drugstore, whether it's CVS or Kroger or whatever, and that is Milani. Milani is one of my favorite drugstore brands. I just think that so many of their launches over the last few years have just hit it out of the park. So I figure we'll start with my absolute favorite, and if you've watched my channel, you already know the answer to this. This is the Milani eyeshadow primer. This little workhorse is with me every single day. It absolutely makes my shadows go on easier. It makes them stay longer. I have a few dry patches sometimes that show up on my lids, and this just kind of glides right over it. Ironically, because I had all the makeup for this video in a bin, I did not put eyeshadow primer on my lids today. And oh my gosh, what a huge difference. It took me so much longer to do my eyeshadow. And frankly, I was using a really good eyeshadow formula, but it just took me so much longer. I immediately recognized the difference. And I was like, oh yes, this is why I use this all the time. I also use high-end eyeshadow primers as well, and I like them, but man, you can't really go wrong with this. And this is like $8 at the drugstore. Next, let's talk about foundation. Milani has one of my favorite drugstore foundations. This is their Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1. This is a beautiful medium to full coverage foundation. It gives this very kind of satiny matte finish, not flat matte by any means. I hate that look. I don't want to wear a mask with makeup, but it's still not dewy at all. It's great coverage. It feels beautiful on the skin. It does wear away after about 9 hours or so, but the reality is it wears away very naturally. So if you're in the market for a good medium to full coverage foundation and you want not a glowy or dewy finish, I would definitely check this out. I am in the shade Ivory, and I will list particulars down below on cost. Speaking of base products, I also love Milani's Conceal and Perfect concealer. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. It's very hard for me to find drugstore concealers that I actually really like. There's probably maybe 2, maybe 3 at the most. I just have not had very good luck with drugstore concealers, but this one is perfect. It is a full coverage concealer, so you can definitely build it and get full coverage from it. It provides a very natural finish. It is more matte than brightening. I would say this is not I mean, I guess you could get a really lighter shade and use it as a brightening concealer, but I think of it more as just a very natural concealer, and it covers everything. And it again wears beautifully. Yes, it is going to start to wear off after about 9 hours, but you know how some concealers can just get crepey and gross and they flake off your skin. This one does not do it. This wears really, really nicely. I'm in the shade 115 or light nude. Next, moving on to cheek products. This is where I think Milani shines. So we're gonna start with bronzer. Oh my gosh, this is the Milani Silky Matte Bronzing Powder. I have it in the shade Sunlight 01. This is one of my absolute favorite bronzers. What I love about it, even though it's powder bronzer, it's silky smooth. It's not patchy. If you've watched some of my videos before, you know that I do struggle sometimes with bronzers. They're too orangey on me just because I have a very neutral skin tone. I pull almost even a little cool, so I have no warmth to my skin. So if I try to use a really warm bronzer, it just shows up orange. This, I do not have any problem with it. It's just a really, really nice powder formula, and it's buildable. And it just, you can see that. It just does such a beautiful job just kind of warming up my skin tone without making me orange. So again, if you're in the market for a good bronzer, this is a really, really good one. Also on the cheeks, I'm a huge fan of Milani's powder blushes. The most famous one, this is a very old school blush that's been around for a long time. This is Luminoso. This is the most prettiest peachy pink. It just looks so good on so many skin tones. If you have not tried this, I highly recommend it. It's such a beautiful formula and such a beautiful shade. I do also have it in the shade Dolce Pink, which is a nice, bright, vibrant pink, but not too crazy bubblegum pink because it is buildable. It has pigment, but it's not crazy pigmented, so you can build it up. And this is such a beautiful, beautiful blush. And finally, I couldn't talk about Milani without talking about their cream blush formula. This is their Cheek Kiss. I have it in the shade Nude Kiss. This, I became obsessed with cream products last year, and this was one of my favorites from the drugstore. It kind of looks greasy in the pan, but it just blends out beautifully on the skin, and it wears all day, which is one of the problems I found with some of the cream blushes I tried. It just didn't wear well. This wears all day, and it just blends beautifully. So if you want to jump on the cream blush bandwagon and you're looking for a really good no-fail formula, this one is really, really good. Now, I just wanted to do an honorable mention because I realized, I couldn't do a video like this without including this. I couldn't really push any of the other products out to put this one in. So this is my honorable mention, and this is Milani lip liners. Now, don't get me wrong, I have some high-end lip liners I like. I love the Charlotte Tilbury lip liners. I actually really like the Huda Beauty lip liners. But you know what? There are some really great lip liners at the drugstore as well. And this has a very similar consistency to the Charlotte Tilbury and the Huda Beauty. This is more of a pencil, so unlike the Colourpop, which is much more creamier, this is more of a traditional kind of pencil liner, but it's not chalky, it doesn't tug on your lips, it just does such a nice job. I have it in 2 shades. I have it in the shade Spice, and I have it in the shade All Natural, and oh my gosh, I reach for these all the time. So moving on to our next drugstore brand, I want to talk about L'Oreal. L'Oreal has some of my favorite products at the drugstore, and I figure we'll start with foundations because I have 2 here that I absolutely adore. The first one is my #1 drugstore full coverage foundation, and that's the L'Oreal Infallible foundation. This is a holy grail of mine. If you want beautiful skin-like coverage that's still medium to full coverage but does not look like a mask on your skin and provides a very subtle glow but not super glowy, then I would highly recommend picking this up. It is just such a workhorse. It blows so many of my high-end foundations away. There's a reason this has been out for a long time. It is that good. On the opposite end, however, sometimes we don't want medium to full coverage. We don't want that workhorse. We want something that's a little lighter. And that's kind of where this new foundation from L'Oreal comes in. This is their True Match Nude. This is a hyaluronic tinted serum. A very popular trend in makeup right now are these skincare foundation hybrids. And you'll see a lot of serum foundations. I just actually reviewed the NARS version of this, their new serum light reflecting foundation, which is kind of like a serum foundation. But I think this trend is here to stay. I think we're gonna see a lot more of it. I have tried a few, and by far, this is the one that has stood out to me from the drugstore. This feels beautiful on the skin. It does feel very serum-y. It's very wet, light texture. Seeps into the skin, provides a little bit of tint. I would call this light to maybe medium coverage, but it doesn't matter because that's not what it's trying to do. It's just trying to be your skin, but better. This wears really, really well. It doesn't wear as long as obviously, this does, but at the same time, if you're looking for something a little less fussy, something that's just more like your skin, but better, it's a really, really good choice. And this works even with my combination oily skin, which is saying something. Now, L'Oreal does have a newer Infallible powder foundation. I am working with that right now. I like it, but I'm still kind of working with it. Powder foundations are not my favorite. So I'm trying to work with it, kind of figure out how I really feel about it. So far, I really like it. The coverage is amazing for a powder foundation, but I'm still trying it out, and I will update you as I use it more. I wanted to mention that because that's obviously a very popular foundation in this line. So we're going to talk now about the only mascara in this video. This is the L'Oreal Voluminous Lash Paradise. A lot of people call it a dupe for the Better Than Sex, the Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara. Frankly, I like this better. It is a great lengthening and volumizing mascara. I wouldn't call it a curling mascara per se, but it's got that very straight wand, very bristly and large wand. This will grab every lash. I get so much length out of this mascara. It doesn't flake on me. It lasts all day. It's just a really, really good workhorse of a mascara. And you'll notice I say that word a lot, but that's what I look for in a lot of makeup. I want a workhorse. I want something that's gonna work with me and last all day. And this is a great one. Another great product from L'Oreal. This is their True Match Lumi Bronze It, where the Milani is more of a matte bronzer. This is more of a luminous bronzer. And again, not something I ever thought I would be into, but this just does it so beautifully. It provides this kind of luminous bronzing effect. It is not glittery, it is not chunky. And when I first saw it, I was like, oh dear, what have I gotten myself into? This is just gonna be glitter all over my face. But it's not. It's got this kind of creamy formula. I'm gonna swatch it here so you can see. But it's got this creamy formula. It feels beautiful on the skin, but can you just see, it just provides that shimmer that sometimes you want. You want that kind of shine without having to use a luminous foundation or a highlight, and it just provides that just beautiful shimmery bronzing effect that, I don't want it every day, but when I want that kind of effect, this is the bronzer I reach for. And finally, we're talking about lips. One of my favorite lip products from L'Oreal is their shiny lip stains. There are days when I'm just not feeling like a bullet lipstick. This just provides a beautiful wash of color. It lasts a lot longer than I expected, but it doesn't get super dry or uncomfortable on the lip, and I love it. What's interesting is if you love the Lancome lip lacquers, which I have one here, now these are different shades, but these two brands are owned by the same parent company, and I honestly believe this is the same product. There are different shades. You can't go and match the shade completely, but if you love the Lancome lip lacquers, try the shiny lip stains from L'Oreal. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised and you'll save yourself a little bit of money. So moving on to the fourth brand in this video, that fourth brand is Maybelline. I am a huge Maybelline fan. I find that I just like so many of their products. It was actually hard for me to pick 5. I even have an honorable mention in this group because it was just impossible for me to pick just 5. So we're gonna start with complexion. We're gonna start with foundation. So this is another one of my favorite drugstore foundations. This is the Fit Me Matte in Poreless. This, I have 2 shades here, I think 112 and 115, depending on the time of year. In the winter, I'm 112, which is some form of ivory, natural ivory. The packaging's not great. Obviously, it doesn't have a pump or anything, which is annoying. I kind of hate that, but you know, it's an inexpensive foundation, so sometimes you just gotta live with it. If you wanna pay for packaging, you pay for packaging. There are plenty of good foundations at the drugstore that are great quality that you don't necessarily always get the perks with, and this is one of them. This is a beautiful matte foundation. So if you are very oily or have combination skin, a nice matte foundation is so necessary in your life, and this is one of the best out there. Now, when I say matte, I don't mean flat matte. There are absolutely some matte foundations out there that I hate. They are lifeless. They are flat. They look like you're wearing a mask. This does not do that. This is actually quite skin-like, but it gives you great medium to full coverage. It's just a beautiful, beautiful foundation. Does not break me out, lasts all day. I love it. Next, let's move on to concealer. I told you earlier in the video that there are very few drugstore concealers that I actually like, but this is another one of my favorites. This is the Instant Age Rewind Eraser. This is such a cult classic. There's a reason it's been around forever. Now, I'm not crazy about the applicator. You know, it reminds me of the Charlotte Tilbury one, the little sponge. I think it gets dirty and gross, but it's such it is natural coverage. So I would not call this full coverage. So if you've got a lot to cover under your eyes, this is probably not the best bet, or you should use a color corrector first and then add this on top. It provides a beautiful kind of brightening finish to it, lasts all day, does not creep or cake up on me. It's just a great option. There's a reason why it's been around forever. I even think I have a backup already for this. And then finally, staying with complexion products, I could not make this video without talking about this powder. This is the Fit Me Loose Finishing Powder. This powder is so great for mattifying, but it's still finely milled. You don't look like you're wearing powder. I feel like so many powders out there recently are all illuminating powders. They're all meant to provide a little bit of glow. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with those powders. But some days I just want something that's gonna mattify my skin. I get oily. I get breakthrough oil throughout the day. I need something that's gonna control that oil and also look pretty on my skin. And this is one of the best on the market. It's such a great powder. And then moving on to lips, frankly, I had a really hard time with this. Maybelline has some of the best lip products on the market, regardless of whether it's high-end or drugstore. They just hit it out of the park again and again and again when it comes to lip products. So I just picked 2 of my favorites, but just know this was really, really hard because Maybelline's got some great lip products out there. So the first one I want to talk about are their ink crayons. If you are looking for a long-lasting lip product that is not dry on your lips, is not uncomfortable to wear, but will last. I mean, you can drink coffee, you can eat lunch, and this is going to stay. Especially with us wearing masks. If you're in a position where you have to wear a mask and then the mask comes off and you want a lip product that'll actually be there when you do that, this is a great option. I have it in the shade Lead the Way. I have one or two other shades. I can't find them. I think they're in a purse somewhere, but you can see it kind of rolls up here. I will swatch it. It's got a beautiful creamy formula, but once it sets, it is not going anywhere. Great choice from Maybelline. And then the second lip product I want to talk about from Maybelline are their lifter glosses. If you like the Fenty Gloss Bombs, then I highly recommend you pick these up. They have a very similar consistency. They're not sticky, overly sticky on the lips. Your hair doesn't stick to them. They have pretty good longevity, and they do actually provide a little pigment. I have them in the shade Stone and Moon, but there are so many great shades out there. I will swatch these, but I'm kind of running out of room on my arm here. You can see this is Moon and this is Stone. You can see there's that mauve again. It's just my favorite. And then Moon is just this really, really pretty pale pink. It's just provides just a really pretty wash of color on your lips. I love Maybelline lip products, but those are probably two of my favorite. And then I promised you an honorable mention. I am kind of an eyeshadow snob. There is not much eyeshadow at the drugstore that I like. There is some, like Colourpop, and we're gonna be talking about another one in just a second. But I could not do this video without talking about this palette. This is the Maybelline Nudes of New York. If you are looking for a really good neutral eyeshadow palette, this is it. This is such great quality. The mattes are beautiful, they're blendable. The shimmers are really, really nice. They're not the most pigmented shimmers I've ever used, but that's not necessary all the time. You don't always have to be crazy pigmented with your shimmers. These are really, really beautiful. And this palette, I think they just hit out of the park with it. I wish they would come out with more like this, because I think I would be using so much more Maybelline eyeshadow if they did. But I find that some of their other palettes, they just don't have this quality. If you want a great neutral eyeshadow palette and you want to pay drugstore prices, grab this. All right, guys, we're on to the last drugstore brand we're going to talk about today, and that is e.l.f. e.l.f. has some of the best makeup on the market. They've had some great launches over the last year or two. I'm actually getting ready to film. I just received some products from their Cookies and Dreams launch, so I'm going to be trying out those products on camera for you. That's coming up in my next video. And then I'm also going to be I've been trying out the new Camo foundation, powder foundation as well, and I'm really excited to share my thoughts about that foundation with you as well. Talking about my favorite products from e.l.f., however, this was another difficult one for me, but I figure I would start with primer. Primer is the other category, like concealers. I actually have a hard time finding good drugstore primers that I really, really like, but I absolutely love their Poreless Putty primer. They talk about this as a dupe for the Tatcha Silk Canvas, and I absolutely disagree. I think the Silk Canvas is awful. I cannot stand that product, but I love this. This holds back my oil, it blurs imperfections, it decreases the look of my pores, and I absolutely love it. Now I have it in the original formula, and I have it in the acne fighting formula. I'll be honest, this doesn't do anything else for me, so I'll end up probably going back to this formula. Ironically, I've never tried the mattifying formula, which is kind of silly, but I love this so much. I'm kind of like, why stray from a really good thing? I also love the fact this is great for travel because you're not talking about lotions or anything like that. If you're looking for a good, affordable primer that is going to help your makeup last longer, just even out any texture, blur imperfections, this is a great choice. Moving on to cheek products. Like I said earlier in this video, I have become obsessed with cream bronzers and blushes and cream products in general. And this is another launch from e.l.f. last year that just did it for me. This is their Putty bronzer. I didn't like the Putty blushes as much, unfortunately. They weren't bad, I just didn't like them nearly as much. But this bronzer was just perfect for me. This is in the shade Tan Lines. It's just got a beautiful consistency. It doesn't show up. I'm gonna find a place to swatch. I'm running out of places to swatch. It's got a beautiful consistency. It's a little greasy on the texture, but it dries beautifully and perfectly. It blends out really, really nicely. It does not make me look orange, and it lasts all day. It's about everything I could ask for from a cream bronzer. But if you were in the market for a cream bronzer and you want to pay a drugstore price, this is usually the one I'm going to recommend. I said before I wasn't crazy about the Putty blushes. They just didn't work for me. However, their primer infused blushes, their powder blushes are some of my favorite blushes. These are pigmented, they are blendable, and I just think they're great workhorse matte blushes if you're in the market for that. I have two shades. I have Always Rosy and I have Always Cheeky, which is more of a peachy shade. These are just great matte blushes. If that's what you're looking for, not super shimmery blushes. If you're looking for a good matte blush, that's what I would grab. And then this is just kind of a funny product, but I find that I use it all the time. This is the Lip Exfoliator from e.l.f. Now they have this in a bunch of different flavors. I have it in the sweet cherry flavor, but in the winter, I just get really dry lips, and I find that I use this to prep my lips, and it just exfoliates without burning sensations or anything like that. But it just exfoliates. It makes my lip products go on so much easier. And you know what? Now that I've just turned 45, I find that I more likely have to use products like these because my lips just need a little bit more help in general. If you get a lot of dryness to your lips, if you're having trouble putting on lipstick and for it looking the way it should, I would recommend this. This is very inexpensive, and it's just one of my must-haves at this point. And then finally, I couldn't talk about e.l.f. favorites without talking about their bite-sized eyeshadows. These blew me away. They are so inexpensive, and the quality is just second to none. Wow, e.l.f. for the price point, I couldn't even believe it. It was so great. I have a few of them. I have Cream and Sugar. I have Pumpkin Pie, which I think is my favorite just because I just love this warm coppery color story. It's just one of my favorites. And then I have Berry Bad. I also have Rose Water, and I don't know where it disappeared to. I'm worried that my daughter stole it and now has no idea where it is. But I also have that one too somewhere. I've always wanted to try the green one, which is like something jalapeno or something, but I've never had the courage to buy it. I just, if you're looking for inexpensive eyeshadow that the quality is there, then this is what I would reach for. I would reach for these e.l.f. bite-sized shadows. So that's it, guys. I know it was a long video, but I had so many great products to share with you. Let me know in the comments below. What did I forget? What are your favorite products from these brands? Did you agree with my assessment? Or are there a few products here that you just didn't like as much as I do? Or do you think others just blow these out of the water? I would love to hear your comments, and I'd love for you to like this video and subscribe to my channel here on YouTube and join our little YouTube family where we're talking about makeup for more mature women, because it definitely changes as we age and we have to be more careful about the products we're using. And frankly, a lot of brands aren't marketing to us. So it's really important for us to be able to find things that work for us and make us look like the best version of ourselves and not something we're not trying to be. Until next time, you guys, I told you I'm gonna be trying out some new e.l.f. makeup soon, and I've got some other new makeup from Tarte I'm gonna be trying out as well. Until next time, stay safe. If you're in the Midwest like me, don't get caught in all the snow, and have a great day. Bye.